Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome into the Makeshift Managers podcast. My name is Austin. That's Devin. That's Grant. We're all back together. We gotten the band back together. Grant, how you doing?
Great to be back, guys. How are you?
Arbitrary me saying something about how time is never ending. But, Giants are 2-1. I cannot complain. Life could be a lot worse.
As the only man who's 2-1 in here.
We got a lot to talk about for the Giants over this week.
Us young teams will hang out over here.
Oh, man.
It's opening weekend. We are finally, after the long lockout, after hating Rob Manfred, although that never truly stops.
Hey, dude, he gave out Bose headphones. We love him again. Just ask the players.
True. I am going to. I need an application to apply for these headphones.
Hey guys, sorry I made that comment about the trophy being a piece of metal. Quotation marks. It literally is metal. And he's like, so the owner said I had to say hi. So here's some headphones. Play ball.
Dear Slim, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling. But yeah, we are 3-4 games in, depending on who you're a fan of. Technically, all of us were 3 games in. I'm looking over here as we're playing our 4th game. Grant's playing his 4th game. Giants are off to... No, they're playing the Padres in about a couple hours. The Slam Diego Padres. Speaking of playing... Play.
That was a great segue.
I appreciate that.
No worries, man. But the thing you should be worried about, my friends, is spring cleaning. Fellas, have you started spring cleaning yet? The carpets need cleaning, the drapes need dusting, and your lawn needs mowing. Spring has sprung, and the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming have the best tools for cleaning aisle 5 in your pants. Time to clear out your winter bush and join the other 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code TMSM. And as you've heard me say over the last, how long has it been, Austin? 2 months?
Yeah, 2.5 months now. Almost.
Austin and I were lucky to be some of the first people to try out the new Lawnmower 4.0. And as Austin has stated before, 4 is greater than 3. And so Manscaped has the full package you need for spring cleaning this year. Their Performance Package 4.0 is the only tool you need to keep your boys looking and smelling like the fresh tulips your partner wants. And so to start off your spring cleaning, use the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 to get the most precise shave on your hedges. Did we mention it's waterproof as well? No need to worry about watering your grass with this tool. Equipped with an LED light, so you know it'll be a major asset to the new shower routine. And clean your holes and smell the spring air with the Weed Whacker. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. And so I know what you're thinking. My privates are shaved. My nose is trimmed. What if I smell? Well, good thing for you, the Crop Preserver exists. It's their anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. And if you're ever feeling like you're kind of just, down in the dumps, let Manscaped revive you a little bit too with the Crop Reviver, their spray-on toner for your balls. And before we cut this ad read, I just wanted to say the start of spring also marks the start of Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness to testicular cancer, men's health, and early cancer detection. Manscaped is committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men aged 15 through 35 and giving support for fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of their We Save Balls initiative. So, you know the drill. You like saving money, you like being clean, you like keeping yourself prim and proper. Use code TMSM at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping worldwide.
Boom. It's just that easy.
Easy
as that. All right. Okay. So before we get on to any awards, we're just going to talk about opening weekend, specifically our 3 teams or any big stories that came up over the weekend. I know the Guardians put up 17 runs in one game, and they only scored 1 in 19 innings before that. Peak Guardians. Speaking of the Guardians, I want to get this out because I like Miles Straw a lot, and as I watch this home run go out, Miles Straw got a 5-year, $25 million extension.
Good value.
Huh?
Great value.
I think that's insane value for someone that's going to be the starting center fielder and leadoff hitter for the Guardians for the next, 5 years. That's something significant. But I will do Devin the honors since he is indeed 2-1. Devin, what did you see from the Giants this weekend against the Miami Marlins?
Baseball is back, and I'm thankful for that. Logan Webb didn't strike out a lot of guys in the first start of the season, but dude's stuff is still nasty. This series was really cool because the Giants and the Marlins have dudes that can shove. Game one was interesting. They were able to sneak it out in extra innings. Joey Bart, welcome to the MLB, first career home run. Austin's demanding that we release the tapes. He wants him to pee in a cup, essentially. Game two, I can't complain. It's a 2-1 loss. It's something that happens throughout the course of a major league season. The Giants went 2-1 in the series, what they needed to do, especially with how competitive their division is going to be. All in all, what had happened is what I expected for a majority of this series. Miami is like plucky. Their lineup is actually really good. Jorge Soler is one of the scariest leadoff hitters in baseball, in my opinion. Having to go up against him 3 straight days was not something I was looking forward to. I thank Don Mattingly for benching Jazz Chisholm in game 2, even though it didn't really deter them from winning the game. Rodon was electric. He threw 12 strikeouts in 5 innings. I loved the signing before the season started. I'm infatuated at this point. I think he's arguably my dark horse for Cy Young if he can stay healthy. That guy has got nasty stuff. And game 3 was just more of the same in terms of last year. Kapler made the right calls. Jarlin Garcia got us out of a really big jam in the 4th inning because Disco couldn't get us out of it. And the Marlins out-hit us by a lot, but the Giants are kings of insane bullpen production and timely hitting. So going 2-1 to start the year, no complaints from me. I'm just happy baseball's back.
And Grant, your team and my team, we had to actually play real teams this weekend. So they took on the Chicago White Sox. What did you see from Detroit? So your first 3 games. I mean, you're beating Boston right now, so it looks like you'll finish out 2-2. But what did this weekend look like for you?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be at opening day on Friday, and it was good to see. I mean, we faced Giolito, Cease, and Kopech are 3 really all good young starters, and we managed to stay in the game. Except with the exception of Sunday, we lost I think 9 or 10-1. But the first 2 games of the season or the series were really close, and I was impressed with the way that the bullpen, kept the team in the game and was able to limit the damage on an offense that was in the playoffs and will likely be in the playoffs next year in the White Sox. So that was promising. Bats are a little bit slow to get going. I mean, the game we won on opening day was kind of a weird one, a lucky win, but a win's a win. And then, I mean, tonight we're winning 3-1, so it's not like we're putting up a whole lot of runs so far, but bats usually start out slow as we have cold weather to start in Detroit. And once we move into the warmer temperatures, I'm sure that we'll get going. Baez hit his first home run tonight, so that was good to see. I think the Tigers are going to be a little bit more competitive than people think. It's exciting to see them off to the start that they're having, and just to have a good manager to direct the ship and point it in the right direction as we continue this rebuild and honestly start building towards the future. Yeah, things are looking bright in Detroit.
Yeah, it's easily one of the best guys to be at the head of the ship in AJ Hinch for sure, regardless of how you feel about him as a person for the whole cheating scandal. He still picked up a young Astros team and took them all the way, and he could easily do the same thing with the Tigers. He just kind of knows how to do it, basically. He's been there and he'll do it again. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers, if probably not this year, they could be. It's a long season. We're 3 games into 162 games. But if not this year, then next year they could easily be right in the race, taking the division out from under the White Sox. In terms of the Texas Rangers, blowing a 7-0 lead on Friday to open the year. Yep. But a team that finished nearly last in OPS, runs scored, home runs, it's good to see the offense be able to put up numbers against guys like Barrios, Gosman, Ryu, and a somewhat decent bullpen. It sucks for the bullpen to explode in the first game and give it up to a firepower of a Jays offense. We lost 4-3 on Saturday, avoided a sweep by coming back from a 6-1 deficit by winning 12-6. So it's nice to see that, albeit we might lose to the Rockies here and start 1-3. But I can watch these games now knowing that the bullpen is only the really thing left I don't have current faith in. It's because that's the reason why we're losing now. It's the reason why we lost on Friday. I wouldn't call a 3-2 lead a blown lead, losing 4-3 on Friday. I think that's really asinine to call one-run leads blown leads, especially to somebody like the Toronto Blue Jays. 7-0, that's a blown lead. That's a problem. But the pitching's young. Simeon's off to a slow start, but to see the bats get going nice and early, it feels really good to see. It's basically all I got. I don't get anything else unless, somebody throws like a perfect game or something. But none of us are going 162-0. I hate to say it, but I hate to be the guy to break it to you, but we have all lost our chance to go 162-0. So outside of that, the Yankees and Boston. Yankees took 2 out of 3 from Boston. Tampa Bay swept Baltimore. Yeah. The Mets beat up the Washington Nationals. They took 3 out of 4. Talked about Toronto taking 2 out of 3 from Texas. Atlanta split with the Cincinnati Reds. Minnesota and Seattle are finish up their 4-game series, as Minnesota looks like they're already scoring in the first. I found it really weird that there was wraparound series to start the year. I just don't see a whole lot of those anymore, but I thought that was really odd, to say the least. Cleveland split with KC. Milwaukee lost 3 out of 4, or 2 out of 3 to the Cubs, and then they got shut out by Baltimore today. So Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, right, guys? We're good.
I don't know about Brandon, but I like Corbin.
I mean, Grant literally said it before the pod. It's like Milwaukee has the opposite problem that the Los Angeles Angels do. They can pitch, they can keep themselves in the game, but their offense won't put them in the game. That's the problem.
Yeah, the bats are bad right now.
If I told you that Kyle Hendricks, Steele, and Marcus Stroman, this was their combined line from the first 3 games: 15 1/3, 2 earned, 15 strikeouts, 1.19 ERA, 1.19 WHIP, compared to Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta, 12 2/3 innings pitched, 13 earned runs, 9.59 ERA. So I don't think anyone saw that coming to start the season.
Nope.
If you would have told me Hendricks and Stroman, then I'd have been like, okay, maybe. I don't even know who Steele is. I'll be straight. I don't even know his first name. What's it?
I didn't either. I think it's Justin, but I didn't want to be wrong.
Sounds like a portfolio.
The point is, their 3-headed monster is supposed to go into Chicago and dominate, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be fine in the long run. It was just, that was not something that any of us expected to start the season.
Yeah, I'll always look back and see how Baltimore swept Boston, I believe, in a 3-game series last year to open the year. And everyone was like, oh my God. And then what? Baltimore went on to win 57 more games, if that. So everyone can overreact all they want. It's just 3 games. Well, everything will be okay. Or it may not be. It depends who you're a fan of. Okay, so what we're mainly here for is the awards. We've covered all our divisions. I think we've all kind of solidified. Well, okay, so Grant has posted a lot of his stuff on his account at Databasehit. If you don't see it next to his name, kind of like how mine's next to. I'm done with my fingers. I'm over it. But if you don't follow Grant, you really should. Give that man a follow. Whether you say data or data, follow it anyways. It doesn't matter. We all read it the same, kind of. But he's posted his, top every position, division rankings. But I bring this up because I saw that you put the Jays in first place now.
Yep. I changed my mind. I just think, like, their lineup, and if their starting rotation can just hold it together, I see them being a team that could make a trade at the deadline and add another starting pitcher. And then, I mean, at that point, their depth is just as good as anybody else in the division.
I think they also have this weird advantage that they're not going to play against unvaccinated guys at home. And for the Yankees, that might be Rizzo and Judge. And I'm not saying that like whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated is a good or a bad thing, but Canada has laid down the law, and it is a distinct advantage that some of the teams may not get some of their better players in for a 3-game or a 4-game series. Devin, are you still on the boat of the Tampa Bay Rays?
Hey, man. Toronto's fucking scary. There's another way to put it, but, for me right now, if I go against Toronto and they just destroy everybody in their division, they end up going to the playoffs as the division winner for the East. Yeah, you guys can tell me I told you so. But I'm of the belief with Tampa currently and the staff they have, and if they can get Glasnow back before midseason, it's their division to lose still. I love what Toronto's done in the offseason. They are stronger than any team in their division in terms of their peak and top end, and I think their rotation it's definitely fleshed out better than Tampa Bay under current construction. But man, if I had to go to the bank, I'm rolling with Kevin Cash. He's been the guy in that division. That team has been there and they have done it. And each time I think I'm going to start doubting them, they prove me wrong. So
you
Toronto,
might want to change your mind. They're down 9-0 to the A's right now.
baseball, it's
Just
162 games. I totally get you, because my biggest thing is Toronto can score runs with anybody, but as this first week is showing everybody, anybody can score runs with anybody at this point. And it's a long season. I just think I need to see a lot out of the manager out in Toronto, because it's really easy to see all the players in place and say, yeah, Montoya should be able to figure it out. But it's easier said than done. Kevin Cash has created this well-oiled machine with the front office to where I think they could really deal with a lot of things in Tampa Bay and still come out better on the other side. Whereas opposed to a team like Toronto, where I don't expect them to collapse or crater or even miss the playoffs, but they haven't been there yet. They're still very young. They still have a lot of variables that I don't fully trust. Vladdy Jr. will be an MVP candidate. Bo Bichette should be a top. If he's not already a top 5 shortstop, he's cemented as a top 5 shortstop after this year. Their pieces are better than anybody else in the division, but I need to see it all put together for the full year. Because if Springer plays the full year, yeah, they should be the pick, because that's just a bonkers lineup.
Yeah. A big blow for the Rays tonight, though, is losing Luis Patino to an oblique strain after 13 pitches. And usually oblique strains do not heal quick.
With the breaking news, fuck it, we're going north, boys.
You heard it here first.
Who cares? At this point, Kevin Cash proved me wrong again, I guess, but ball's in your court, Toronto. Run with it, because the whole COVID wrinkle to it all is actually important as well, because their division is stacked. But if you have guys that aren't vaccinated, it doesn't matter how stacked the team is, you're going to be playing with a deficient lineup or even rotation. So Toronto's playing with house money at this point. If they get healthier than everybody, good luck catching up, because they're scary. And Austin, I know you know this because you had to watch them for 3 straight games.
Dude, Vladdy annihilated a ball against Spencer Howard.
Insert Rocky meme.
I wish John Gray didn't get that blister, because that turned Friday on its head for me. Like, we were up 7-0 and he started losing control, but I won't get into it. They are a firecracker. They will explode on offense. Springer, Bichette, Gurriel, Hernandez. Hernandez hit a 3-run bomb, I believe, off Josh Spores to like tie the game at one point. Just that whole lineup. You got Alejandro Kirk DHing. Danny Jansen hit 2 home runs against us. I told that dude he needs to calm down, like chill out. I feel like he had 2 career home runs going into the season. But I like Danny Jansen a lot. I like defensive catchers a lot, and he's got a lot of power. So So we're all on Toronto now. We're all
Yeah.
in on the Chicago White Sox. We're all in on Houston, I believe.
Mhm.
Right. All in on the Braves. All in
Yeah.
on the Brewers still. Granted, their bad weekend. 3 games won't change my mind quite yet. And then you guys are in on the Dodgers, and I'm in on Slam Diego.
Yep.
Maybe I have to
Oh.
waver, Austin, losing 2 of 3 to the Rockies. No, I'm kidding. Chris Bryant for MVP, I guess. That's the narrative we're going to push.
That was a weird series. I watched a lot of it. That was just a weird series all around. Chris Taylor missed a ball that got a couple runs, and then Chris
I
Bryant
think,
dropped the ball that got.
Yeah.
yesterday, I mean, obviously we're taking everything with a grain of salt at this point, but Sunday's
Yeah.
game with the Rockies and Dodgers, especially, the wind played such a factor. I've never seen the weather play such a factor in a baseball game. So, I mean, both teams were, they would have been better off just not even having a left fielder out there. Chris Bryant and Chris Taylor both made some plays that looked like little leaguers. And so when you've got effects like that, it's like, who's going to get the most luck out of the wind blowing. So I think the Dodgers are fine in the long run.
Okay, so 3 wildcard teams make it this year. Grant, we'll start with you. 3 wildcard teams coming out of the AL will be.
So I know what I tweeted, but I've been going back and forth.
I don't blame you.
It's very easy to say the 4 teams from the East, so whoever wins it, and then the other 3. But I think I'm gonna go. I don't know, no particular order. I'm gonna go. So if I have the Jays winning, I'm gonna do Yankees, Rays for 2 of them, and then I'll say Mariners.
Devin, I am the same exact 3 in no particular order. I don't think Boston is. I think that Boston's the odd man out. I think Seattle will do enough, although I have my doubts about the Mariners, but I still have to pick them as if I were to pick any of them as the bottom of the 3, it would be the Mariners. But that's just because the Yankees and the Rays should be in the plus 90 wins. But how do you feel, Devin?
Yeah, I can't really contest the statements you guys are making. New York looks rejuvenated in a way that we haven't seen them in a while. They seem to get into this whole just string of sameness. Like at least the whole Stanton Judge era has kind of just been same old year in and year out. But with the additions of Donaldson, bringing back Rizzo, this team is far better than the opening day roster we saw for the Yankees last year. And I think that's important for their hopes for a postseason berth. And I was sitting here 5 minutes ago saying Kevin Cash can still win the division. So to say the Rays are out of the playoffs would seem ignorant to me. But yeah, denying the Mariners this year would be like taking candy from a baby. I hope the Mariners can make it at this point because 20 years of no playoffs is something no fan should be subjected to. And I don't see anybody else in the West being consistent enough to knock the Mariners out of contention for that wild card spot. Only other team that I think has a shot outside of that group in the AL East and maybe the Mariners, look out for the Guardians. I know they're not going to score a bunch of runs every night, but they're in a division that is for the taking in that second spot, and they're talented enough with guys like Jose Ramirez, Zach Plesac, Shane Bieber. Like they're Middle America's Oakland Athletics to a certain extent, and they usually have more talent than Oakland's seen in the last 10 years. So welcome to the new name, Guardians. I liked what I saw from them a lot this opening weekend. So I think they have an outside puncher's chance of pushing for a wild card spot if everything goes right.
Yeah, I'll echo that, except for the Twins. I feel the same way about the Twins. I think they're a dark horse. If the Mariners don't do as well, or the Yankees falter, or even if the White Sox struggle because Giolito's hurt already, and if they suffer a bunch of injuries, obviously you don't want any team to go through that. But the Twins have some of the best talent if Buxton can stay healthy and Correa's there now, and if they can get the most out of the starting pitchers that they've brought over, then I think they have a chance too, because the AL Central is pretty weak, so they could win a lot of games against some of the bottom feeders in that division.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And Gary Sanchez playing DH, it's the most inspired I felt in terms of hearing his name since God knows when. So, yeah, it's a very solid point.
Then we got the 3 Sorry, the umps just made a really bad call to end the Ranger game, so I'm all, ooh. I just want to bring this up, and I this might surprise both you guys when I say this. They called Mitch Garver out and Adolis out at first, so they called the double play because of second base interference on Garver. They legit made that review and overturned it. And when you guys have a chance, anybody watching, go back and watch it. It's got me fuming. Garver was on the bag, never interfered. It's so frustrating to lose a game that way. But anyways, the three teams in the NL. God, I have the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Phillies. Devin, we'll circle back a little bit.
So for the NL wildcard race, give me the Giants, give me the Mets, and this third one's tricky because I think it's probably Cardinals or Cubs. I don't know if the Phillies have enough pitching to actually fit into that third spot. So if I had to pick a third team, Phillies are a dark horse candidate because they're going to score a lot of runs. I just don't know how far their pitching can take them. But it's Cardinals or Phillies in that third spot, I guess, because somebody has to make it.
Yep, I'll say Giants, Mets, and Cardinals for now. But I agree, Phillies can outscore any team. I don't know if their bullpen can keep them in games though,
or their defense, because the pitching can be good.
Yeah.
And if you have Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber playing some outfield spots, I don't know how many runs they're going to need saved this season. But with that defense, it's not going to be enough because they had problems last year on defense and they did not address any of them. But Bryson Stott could be a bright spot for that defense if he pans out. But yeah,
it'll be interesting. I saw a video of someone said, I thought everyone said our defense, was supposed to be bad in reference to the Phillies, and it was Segura making a play, and it's like Segura is like the one good defender on your team. No one's arguing he's the bad spot, so it'll be interesting.
Yep.
Hey man, depends on how many tragedies happen. Just saying, if there's like a car accident, like a fender bender outside Citizens Bank Park, Castellanos is hitting a home run that day. So nothing just a little fender bender, boom, home run every time.
Next thing you know, the broadcast is like, sadly, we have traffic on the 580, and there's a deep drive to right. Nick Castellanos, home run. That's probably the best meme in baseball, like over the last 6 months. It always hits, never misses.
Yeah, all right. So now let's get to our awards for the year. We'll start in the AL. So your AL MVP, you can bring on your lock, and if you would like, you can bring on your dark horse if you have one. I've kind of lost a few of mine over this weekend. I'll explain later, but Grant, we'll start with you on your lock for American League MVP.
So I just feel like people are really underrating him after just being hurt for one season, but Mike Trout is still the best hitter in baseball, and it's a wide margin. And I don't know how much of the Angels games you guys watched this weekend, but every ball that he hit, if it wasn't a home run, there was like a really good catch at the wall. Like he easily could have had 3 or 4 home runs this weekend. And I think if he's healthy, he could put up 40 to 50 home runs this year just to show people this is still my league. So he's my lock. I wouldn't say dark horse because there's a lot of hype around him now and I love it, but Buxton, if he stays healthy, is ridiculous. So I think those are my 2 picks.
Yeah. So it's funny because my lock for the MVP, I've got 2 names, which I know is a cop out, but it's essentially saying whoever stays healthy wins the award. It's Trout and Buxton. Whenever both of those guys are healthy, they set the pace in the AL. Whenever Trout went down last year, Buxton was essentially the closest thing we've seen to Mike in terms of just how great he was playing. So if one of them slips, I expect either or to fill in that hole. My dark horse is Rafael Devers. I think his power gives him a special ability. I think he has more to do in terms of home runs. I think he's going to be able to hit more home runs this year, especially with a guy like Trevor Story in the lineup around him. if there's people on base for Devers to drive in, he's going to do it. And it says a lot whenever you're as bad of a defender as Rafael Devers can be, and you're still starting at the premier position defensively, aside from shortstop, for a playoff-bound team. Devers' bat is special, and I expect it to improve this year. So if anybody aside from those two is someone I could see winning the award, I think Devers, especially in the AL East, is someone that we have to pay attention to. Because with Vladdy and Shohei, not saying voters fatigue, but a healthy George Springer this year, I think, cuts into what because Vladdy was able to capture a lot of America's attention because the other stars in his team went down. And same thing for Shohei. With Mike Trout being out, it's a lot easier to focus on what he's doing. But I think Devers is going to be the guy in that offense. So I think that just lends him to have more notoriety going into the award season.
Yeah, I'm in the same spot in terms of locks. It's Buxton and Trout. Buxton absolutely annihilated balls against Seattle this weekend. Mike Trout is just Mike Trout. I've watched that dude play in person multiple times, and he's that damn good. I don't really have a dark horse. I have a couple breakout players I like, but in terms of MVP, I don't think people will come close to Trout or Buxton. Ohtani will always be in the conversation because he is basically and currently the best baseball player around because he can pitch and he can hit in terms of, he's just the only two-way player who can do it well. But I don't see a repeat type of season that he had. He could get close to 40 bombs. I wouldn't be surprised if he broke 40 again. But in terms of pitching, I think guys are going to eventually figure him out. Now that they've gotten kind of this full season of Shohei Ohtani now, his arm is healthy. He's got a lot. But yeah, it's Buxton and Trout. For AL Cy Young, huh?
Sorry, I just giving it more thought. If let's say one of those guys, God forbid, does get hurt or doesn't play as well as we expect, I think Luis Robert and Jose Ramirez are two guys to look for. Jose Ramirez has been in the MVP conversation, top 5 voting the past 3 or 4 years. He deserves it. He just keeps getting outperformed, so he's always going to be right there as well.
And I one point about Ohtani going into this year, I think he's disqualified himself from the MVP going into this year, just due in parts to the fact that last year was so sensational. The biggest part about MVP awards a lot of the time is you're seeing this in the NBA with the Nikola Jokic discourse and how his stats were better last year. How can he be MVP this year? Whenever you have a historic season, the only way to really win the MVP afterwards is to one-up that historic season. What Ohtani did last year, nobody has seen since the early 1900s, and even if that. So for Ohtani to repeat, he would have to basically be the best thing baseball has ever seen in the history of man. So it's a really steep curve for him to beat, even for Vlad at the same time, because Vlad's numbers any other MVP year get him the award. So both of those guys, just due to their amazing seasons last year, I feel like kind of disqualifies themselves.
I think if there was any dark horse I would have, which it's so hard to pick a dark horse because everyone's so good these days, it's George Springer.
Yep.
Kind of you have Bichette and you have Vlad, but George Springer's done it for a really long time.
Good.
He's in a fire offense. And the thing is, the guys at the bottom of the lineup get on base for him. So he will have RBI opportunities, and he's going to hit leadoff home runs. If he stays healthy, I could easily see George Springer in the conversation as well. It's all about health, especially with outfielders. And of course, we know Vlad's going to be right there in it. AL Cy Young, this one's so hard for me. I in the right mind should pick Garrett Cole, but I can't pick Garrett Cole. I don't foresee Robbie Ray repeating. Justin Verlander it's been gone too long for me. So I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to pick somebody I like a lot, even as a lock or even as a dark horse. I'm going to go with Dylan Cease. I think Cease has really nasty stuff. I think he's in a spot where he's going to be facing he doesn't have to face the ace of the rotation most of the time because he's in the middle of the White Sox rotation. I know Lance Lynn's hurt right now. I think Giolito might even be hurt. But if that rotation's healthy and you have Giolito into Lynn into Cease is facing kind of the middle of the rotation type guy, and I think he's much better than that. He's going to be picking up wins. He's on a good team. He has great strikeout stuff. So I'm going to go with Cease.
And you can go if you'd like, Grant. I'm still kind of
I was going to say either you guys can go. Sorry, bad segue.
I put down Garrett Cole just because he did it last year. Just Robbie Ray did it a little bit better. I mean, they were going neck and neck until their last start. I think he has a Red Sox problem at this point, which doesn't bode well as a Yankees pitcher, but I still think his stuff is electric. I don't know. Dark horse, I do like the Cease pick because he does get a little bit overshadowed by the other guys in his rotation, but his stuff is nasty. But yeah, I think there's probably going to be another guy that comes out of nowhere like Robbie Ray did last year and just lights the world on fire and does well for, a 2-month stretch, and just his numbers over the course of the season look a lot better than they probably were, and he'll put himself up there in the conversation. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Nobody I think Shane Bieber has a chance every time every season if he stays healthy the full season too. But yeah, I'm going with Garrett Cole as my pick.
So my thing, because I had Garrett Cole until about like 5 minutes ago. I'm not going to lie to you. Garrett Cole, whenever he's on, is he's one of the more intimidating pitchers that we've seen in the last decade. Like whenever he's on the mound, there's just a certain gravity that follows him whenever he pitches. Like even looking back in his days in Houston, he was one of the scariest pitchers you could face. Garrett Cole with a pulse is an AL Cy Young candidate. I like Bieber. I think if Bieber puts together a healthy year, Cleveland's going to go as far as Bieber, Plesac, and Ramirez can take them. So if you get a fully healthy year of Shane Bieber, I like him a lot in terms of one of my locks. Dark horses, Dylan Cease is the most popular Cy Young pick you can have. And I think with Giolito going down, it's going to be Cease's time to shine. He's got nasty stuff. He's very talented. One person I don't want to sleep on in terms of my early season predictions for a dark horse Cy Young candidate, Jose Barrios. Toronto really likes this guy. They moved quite a bit to get him last offseason, and they gave him the money to back up their belief in him. In a rotation where Kevin Gausman had the best year of his career, and we're not sure if he's going to repeat that in Toronto, and with a guy like Ryu, who's going to be the 3 as of right now, I think Barrios has a very unique opportunity to cement himself as the 1 up in Toronto. And whenever you have a lineup that can provide run support like that, he's bound to win a lot of games. And if he can pitch the way he wants to, his ERA should be pretty low. So I think Barrios is a very solid case as a dark horse for the AL Cy Young.
All right. The AL Rookie of the Year. Grant, we'll start with you because I think you might. You have the young guys on the team. You definitely get to watch a lot of the possible Rookie of the Years.
It's good to have a lot of guys up already instead of saying, oh, let's see what this guy does when he comes up in, middle of May or whatever. But I think it's a 3-horse race between the 3 obvious guys in Bobby Witt Jr., Spencer Torkelson, and Julio Rodriguez. They haven't really shown much yet, obviously taking some adjustments to the big league pitching. But I went with Spencer Torkelson. I'm pretty unbiased, I think. So to say that, I think I see him actually doing better than people think. I think he has really good plate discipline for a young guy. He faced really good pitching this first weekend. And then Hinch decided to sit him to start tonight, which to me isn't a smart move because that just messes with the young guy's head. But the more playing time he gets, the better. Working with one of the greatest hitters of all time as his mentor in Miguel Cabrera is definitely going to help him. And I think putting him in the bottom of the lineup for a team that isn't expected to, make the playoffs this year, I think the pressure's off him and he can just kind of free swing it and take his pitches when he wants to. So yeah, he's my pick.
Devin?
Okay, so AL Rookie of the Year. as Grant was saying, you have your 3 front runners, and if you're looking at the last 10 years of AL Rookie of the Years, the only pitcher was Shohei Ohtani in 2018, but he's a DH at the same time. If I had to pick today in terms of how I see things playing out, I think the favorite for me, the odds are saying it's Bobby Witt Jr. He's baseball's top prospect since Wander came up. He has big shoes to fill, but honestly, there's not a whole lot of people in front of him to really deter him out in Kansas City. But I think Torque is one of the best bets for the award. He's playing first base in a Tigers lineup that has drastically improved. He's going to have the opportunity to not only hit for power, but drive guys in. And as Grant said, learning from one of the best hitters in all of baseball over the last 25 years in Miguel Cabrera is invaluable. So while Bobby Witt Jr. may have some just insanely innate talent that he possesses at a premier position in baseball, Torque's going to have the clearest runway to immediate production. He has better players around him, better leadership in front of him. And so while Witt is going to have, I think, brighter flashes, Torkelson should have the more consistent rookie year. So it just depends on what you look for in the award.
Yeah, I'm definitely siding with Bobby Witt Jr. on this one. I think the kids, I mean, there's so many studs right now in baseball, and this award's going to be absolutely brutal. If I were to lock anybody, it would be Bobby. Obviously, Torque and Bobby are literally right there. It's like Buxton and Trout to me. Like, either one of those guys could easily handle the award. In terms of dark horse, am I allowed to pick the Oakland Athletics? I didn't realize that Christian Pache was available for the award. I thought he had just squeaked over service time. I watched Kevin Smith a lot in spring training. He looked really good, and Dalton Jeffries put up a really good performance against the Phillies. So I felt like if any of those guys could keep up some of their performances, they would be right there for it. But it's a long shot for those guys. I feel like the biggest thing too, and the reason why we like guys like Bobby and Torque and Pache, Smith, Jeffries, they're all on bad teams currently. Yep. Like teams that, I don't know about Kansas City's future. We kind of know what Detroit is heading towards. They're just about at the end of their tunnel, or so we believe, in terms of, once we see the performance this year, we'd like to believe that we've reached the end of the tunnel. The A's hit reverse. They got to the end of the tunnel and then reverse back. But these guys who are on bad teams and are like, I get they're expected to perform. You are a Major League Baseball player, but it's different when you're a Philly or you're a Dodger or you're a Padre. You're expected to perform really fucking hard because your team's winning right now. Most of these teams are not winning right now. The Royals, the Tigers, and the A's are not going to win anything this year, most likely. So this is why we feel like Rookie of the Year can come out of teams like this. And the A's have shown that they know how to get the Rookie of the Years when they had Andrew Bailey and Bobby Crosby and Houston Street. I think I have like 3 decks of cards from like those years back in the mid 2000s. It was a wild time for the A's, winning Rookie of the Years left and right. But yeah. And then there is AL Manager of the Year. This is a weird award. We talked about it before the pod. It's basically the team who overperforms everybody's expectations. So for me, it's it could easily be AJ Hinch or Chris Woodward if the Rangers or the Tigers were to make the playoffs. But I feel like the biggest lock for me is Scott Service. I think yes, the Mariners performed really well last year, just outside of a playoff spot. But I think the big precedent of breaking a 21-year drought, doing something, nobody's done in the past 20 years since they won 116 fucking games, that it's basically Scott Service's award to lose at this point by his team's performance and his decision making.
The Mariners are a really compelling team this year, but I'm going to have to disagree with the Scott Service pick because, yes, the 20-year drought is massive, and I think their front office could be due for an executive type based award. But if Scott Service doesn't lead this Mariners team to a division title, I don't see him winning the award. I think for me personally, with how the season's stacking up, everybody's expecting the Mariners to do great things. So I think Service is going to be penalized for how good the team was last year and the fact that they just missed out. And while the drought is extremely compelling, I think as hypocritical as it is to say, people really aren't on the Tampa Bay train. And as boring as it is for Kevin Cash to consistently and continuously win this award every year, if the Rays are starting the year off with no Glasnow and Patino's going down to start the year, if Cash has this team in the playoffs if they win their division or if they're the number one wild card team, I think that's a compelling argument for Kevin Cash to win the award. But Cash is not my lock. Cash is not going to be my lock-it-in favorite. If the Blue Jays win the AL East in the way that we predict them to, I think Montoyo is probably in line to win the award because they're going to have a better record than the Mariners are. Because if the Mariners win the division, then yes, give it to Scott Service. But what the Blue Jays are bound to do this year, if they win their division, which is a arguably more difficult division than the AL West, I think Montoyo gets the award. Because, yes, they have the talent and they have the pieces there, but he still has to put it together. This is a Toronto team that's missed the playoffs when's the last time they made it? Like 2018?
2020.
It's okay, 2020, but that was the shortened year and it was a very
Yeah.
But
Then they got swept by the Rays, so
exactly. So Toronto has the pieces, but they haven't been here. So it takes the manager to get them to that point. So Service, you win the division, it's all yours, but I don't see them winning the division.
Yeah, I'm going to take kind of a cop out, and I think it's going to be the manager of the team that makes it that people aren't really expecting. I'll echo Montoyo. If the Blue Jays, the Blue Jays have all this pressure now. They have the best team. They have the best lineup. If they come out, dominate this division, which is the toughest division in baseball, and make the playoffs as, 1 or 2 seed, then I think he's definitely the AL manager of the year. But I wouldn't sleep on Rocco Baldelli or Service if he can, or even Joe Madden. If any of those teams can make the playoffs when they're kind of not seen as a team that's supposed to be making it, then I would put them in that spot. So I think it depends on these wild card teams. And, if it's the wild card teams are 3 AL East teams, then it's like, okay, well, everybody expected them to be there. So I don't think any of those guys will make it. But it's going to be dependent on who we see in the playoffs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question for you guys real quick, and we won't spend too long on this. This is like a whole episode topic that I want to talk about one of these days.
Okay.
You look at Charlie Montoyo, and they missed the playoffs last year, winning 90-something games. They missed the playoffs by 1 game, being able to play in a tiebreaker. We've seen in the Rangers series that the Blue Jays can score runs. We knew that going in. Jose Barrios struggled. Hyun-Jin Ryu struggled. Kevin Gausman put up a okay performance. Their bullpen had a good Saturday. They did not have a good Friday or Sunday. From what you guys have seen, is Charlie Montoyo the product of what he has been given, or is he actually a good manager?
It depends on what you want out of a manager. I think we can get caught up in the optics of how teams are built and what the managers deal with on a season-to-season basis. Because as cliche as it is, every manager is essentially a snowflake. Not one single manager is going to do the same things the same exact way. You have, like in the NFL, you have players, coaches, you have organization guys, you have people that have systems. Baseball is really tough. I think if the Blue Jays can put it all together, I think you have to credit Montoyo to a certain extent. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that part of it is the team that he's coaching. Like if you look at the NBA and Golden State Warriors, Mark Jackson had all of the talent in the world with those Golden State teams, but he didn't unlock it. So Steve Kerr comes in, they win 3 championships out of like 4 years, correct? Are we blaming Steve Kerr for the talent that was assembled before he came there? No. We credit him for unlocking it. And we can also acknowledge deficiencies that he has. And so I think it's Pandora's box. And then whenever you said this is a full episode, you're correct because I could talk for 2 hours on the topic. But I would give Montoyo credit because it takes a lot to manage an MLB roster.
Well, the thing is, I'm going to let Grant answer here in a second. The reason why I bring this up is because my team was a product of this. We were given Ron Washington in 2008. We built a team that went to the World Series 2010, 2011. We got rattled by injuries in 2012, had a terrible season. Wash had personal issues and left. We were given Jeff Bannister. We went to the playoffs therefore after, but nearly did not have success on possibly even better teams at the time. I know Josh Hamilton was gone and, Neftali Feliz had fallen off, but arguably those teams were just as good we got Beltre and Elvis had more years under this belt. But Jeff Bannister set that team back because he just was not a good manager. He was handed a good team that got their asses kicked by Toronto 2 years in a row, got knocked out by fucking Joe Saunders in a wild card game. It's just, I'll let Grant answer about Montoya, but this is why I bring it up, because there's so many. That question comes up every time because Jeff Bannister ruined my life.
And after Grant's done talking, I have one more point to kind of highlight what you were saying, Austin.
I agree with with what you guys are saying, that this could be a full episode. So I'll try to keep it concise, but I have some personal, history with it too. We had a really great team, and then Jim Leland decided to step away, and we hired Brad Ausmus, who's a first-time manager, and I think there couldn't have been anyone worse for the job. Putting it point blank, you got to hire a guy that's been there, done that when it's a good team. So going back to the Blue Jays, I looked at the roster, the lineup, the starting rotation when Montoya took over in 2019, and it's nothing great. I mean, Biggio, Guerrero were, rookies, and Bichette wasn't even on the big league team yet. Danny Jansen was their catcher. No one knew who he was. The biggest name, honestly, on this team, like at the time, was Justin Smoke. So he took this team. Yes, they had a great farm system, and they knew what they were going to get in Vlad Jr. and what they were going to get in Bichette. But I think, he's steered them in the right direction. I mean, they could very easily have hired a guy that took them, like Ausmus, out of the playoffs, kept them out of the playoffs, and then they'd just be set back a couple years. But he's created an environment where they are going to win. They've shown that they're good young core, can keep them, in contention with the Yankees and the Red Sox. And they've gotten to the point where they lost their Cy Young winner, and then they still brought in guys. So it's clearly an appealing place to play. And I think part of that has to do with a manager. I mean, you see all over sports, there are teams that are really good, but they can't recruit well because no one wants to play for the certain manager. I'm blanking on an example right now, but I know there's some out there. I would say, look at Dave Roberts with the Dodgers. The team he was gifted was probably better than the Blue Jays were when Montoya got him, and they've just gotten better too. Do we think Dave Roberts is a bad manager? No, he got lucky, but he also has been able to keep the Dodgers in contention while he's been there. So yes, there are probably better options out there than Montoya, but he's done a good job at securing the roster, keeping the guys, building around those young core, and just, they're on an upward trend to dominate this division for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, because Don Mattingly won 5-6 straight division titles before Dave Roberts took over, and Mattingly never got him even to the World Series for that matter.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that's kind of my point as well. As a Giants fan, I cannot sit here and say they win those World Series. They aren't the World Series champions without a guy like Bruce Bochy under the helm.
That's not fair, because I'm convinced Bruce Bochy sold his soul.
But hear me out. I think the biggest part of evaluating managers is understanding the staffs that the organizations put around them, because a manager is only as good as the scouting department there. Because all the best managers in baseball have great talent because the organization supports them, and managers they have their own team of people around them. So baseball is really weird. It's not just like the NBA or the NFL where you have the head coach that sets the tone. The manager wears a lot of hats, and the best ones are the ones that can navigate wearing all of those hats and entrusting the people around them to help them benefit the team. So It's a loaded question in terms of evaluating managers
Yeah.
because there's so many mitigating factors. Because if you look at Kapler in Philadelphia, I don't think he was supported by the organization enough. You look at what they're doing in SF, he's probably right in there with Farhan trying to make decisions on the roster. Like, you have to work hand in hand on every aspect of the team in order to create the environments that are going to be susceptible to winning. It's just the way that it has to work in baseball. It's so deep. There's so many layers to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll definitely be one of the topics we do this season is, the Jeff Bannisters, the Brad Osmuses, or, what's his name? Bob Brenly. After he won the World Series with the Arizona Diamondbacks, that was kind of it.
Yeah.
But it could easily be the team. It could easily be Bob Brenly or Bannister or Osmus. And then later this year, we're going to do Pace of Play. Pace of Play is going to be an episode because I wrote a paper on that in college. I think Devin was in that class when I presented.
Yeah.
Oh, man, dude. It is one of my favorite topics. Okay. Before we move on to the NL real quick, I remembered my dark horse for the AL Cy Young, Noah Syndergaard.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
I think he could easily revive. He had a good start against Houston, so he has the stuff. It's just been a long time since we've seen him throw. Okay, the NL, the National League. That also has a DH now.
Oh, yeah.
The National League MVP. The defender is Bryce Harper. Who's the defending? Oh, it's Shohei Ohtani. I'm dumb. I don't even know why I even had to ask that question. Grant, who is the National League MVP this season?
Keeping it pretty chalky here, similar to my answer with the AL MVP. I think people are forgetting who the best hitter in the NL, best hitter and best contact hitter in baseball is. Juan Soto is my pick. I just the patience at the plate and the ability to hit the ball all directions in the ballpark. I think even on a team as bad as the Nationals are going to be, he's going to put up ridiculous numbers. And he's super young, which just speaks to how good and how rare of a hitter he is at his age. I don't really have much more to say on it. This the fact that the ability that he has to take a pitch that looks like it's going to be a strike and then drops for a ball, and then the very next pitch just blasts it out of the ballpark is something that I haven't seen as consistent as him, honestly, in the last 5-10 years. So he's a really, really fun player to watch, and I hope he gets the award because he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, to follow up, Grant, I'm picking your favorite hitter in Juan Soto. For his age, he is one of the best bats we've seen ever. And if anyone wants to complain about, oh, well, if your team doesn't win, how can you be the MVP? Mike Trout walked so this kid could sprint. There's no flaw in his game. If you look at last year, he's got 30 home run power, which I think can elevate to 40 plus with how strong he truly is. He's not the most imposing person in the box, but his power is there. He's going to get 20 doubles per year, 150 hits. He's going to walk more than he strikes out, and he's going to have an OPS near 1,000. He is as money as it gets in all of baseball, and I expect him to hit over 300 again because that's what he's done every year out. If I had to pick a dark horse, I'm rolling with the boy that's going to replace Freddie. I think Matt Olson has a very compelling case for MVP this year, especially if Acuna doesn't come out of the gate strong. I saw some stats about Matt Olson's hitting numbers out at Oakland Coliseum and how a lot of the balls he's hitting for doubles and singles in Oakland, they go out of the park at Truist. So I think we're going to see a lot more untapped power for Matt Olson this year. And if he's going to be hitting 40 to 45 bombs on a team that's going to win their division, he's got a really good shot. So give me Juan Soto as the lock. And if I have to pick a dark horse, Matt Olson's really compelling.
I'm going to go off the grid and just call your dark horse my lock. I've watched Matt Olson for the past 5 years now. Him and Chapman were absolute cornerstones of the Oakland Athletics, and now they're the cornerstones somewhere else. Matt Olson had a career year in Oakland on a team that really took a nosedive towards the end of the season. And now he's just on a team that he has protection around, that he will have more chances to score runs on, that, like Devin was saying, it's more of a hitter's ballpark. He's going to be fouling out a lot less, that's for sure. He is going to be playing teams like the Nationals and the Marlins, who are a little bit worse than what the current AL West is now. I just like Matt Olson a lot. He's a Gold Glover. He's a Platinum Glover if his teammate didn't exist. And the thing is, a career year at the same time, Matt Chapman was taking also a nosedive. Chapman has really gone down these last couple of years in terms of averages and strikeouts, and it could be due to the hit, but we won't dive into that. So I'm going to pick Matt Olson. It's nothing against Juan Soto. Juan Soto, Acuna, these guys, absolute generational players. It just deters me that he's going to be on one of the worst teams this season. That bothers me. I just don't. His opportunities are going to be less. He's going to hit 40 bombs. He's probably going to drive in close to 100 runs, if not drive in over 100 runs. It just, the team spooked me a little bit. That's all.
I'll add a dark horse in Trey Turner, just because I think his bat to ball skills are about as good as it gets, and he's one of the fastest guys in the league. And I mean, any guy in that Dodgers lineup is going to have good numbers. So I think
that's what I literally was about to say. It feels like anybody in that lineup can win MVP.
All it takes is Mookie Betts waking up this year, and the NL's completely flipped. That's the thing. We've talked about the Dodgers a lot this offseason, and they're essentially just they're the sleeping giant. They have some things. If some players wake up and get out of slumps, I don't know if anybody can touch them. They are sleeping Goliath.
Devin, National League Cy Young.
Okay, buckle up. So since the guy named Jacob is dealing with some Jacob problems, the NL Cy Young is weird because I don't trust Scherzer's arm to go for the full year. It died out at the end of the year last year. Scherzer's a great pitcher whenever he's healthy, but he is one of the oldest arms at the top of the game, and availability is the best ability, and the Mets are going to Met. So I cannot bet on Max Scherzer as my lock. And outside of Scherzer and DeGrom, it's a wide open field. And from what we saw over the last couple of years, yes, Corbin Burns struggled his first start of the year. I think it's his award to lose in the NL. But if I had to pick a dark horse, a lot of people are saying Logan Webb, and I love Logan. I think he has some nasty stuff. I don't know if his strikeout numbers are going to be high enough to actually draw the eyes for the award. I know it's one start. I know he has to stay healthy for the full year. But if I had to put money on a dark horse candidate, Carlos Rodon would get my entire bank account, because in what I saw in that first start, if we can supply him the run support to win games at a high clip, he's going to be striking dudes out. He should be able to get some of those counting stats that matter for a Cy Young. So he's my dark horse. Do I expect him to win it? Probably not. There's going to be more compelling arguments, but Rodon's just as talented as a lot of those top-end starters. So as a dark horse, I'd bet on him. And there goes my homer pick. So,
I think it's like Devin said, with DeGrom hurt, it's wide open. I mean, back-to-back Cy Youngs is hard, so that's why I'm going against Burns. I think Burns is awesome, and he'll be in the voting again, but just winning any award back-to-back is really hard to do, just because, voters like parity. So my pick right now is Walker Buehler, but I'm not in love with that pick. I also could see it going a lot of different ways. I like Max Fried. I like really dark horse Jesus Luzardo for the Marlins.
Yeah, he's
nasty.
Because
the Marlins have the pitching development. He showed in Oakland that he has some stuff. So if he can put it together, that's my really big sleeper. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Walker Buehler as my favorite.
And Walker was close for me, to be honest. I just don't know, because the thing with the Dodgers is they're so good. Their starters are going to win a bunch of games. And I thought Buehler had a great case last year. And I just think Urias winning 20 games really just kind of takes attention off of Buehler to a certain extent. So if the Woodruff fall off is real, I think that does nothing but help Burns to a certain extent. So
yeah,
the
that's
Dodgers
kind of where I'm
cannibalize
at.
each other.
That's where I'm at. I can foresee a back-to-back winner for sure in Burns. I don't think his one start deters me in any way, because I'm a little low on Walker Buehler. Not low in terms of he's going to be awful, but low in terms of being a Cy Young. So I think I would lock down Burns as my I mean, as the repeat winner. I mean, if Jacob deGrom was healthy, I'd be in on that in a heartbeat. I think most of us would be. Well, it's hard. It's hard to pick a guy who hasn't been healthy and believe that he's going to be healthy. For my 2 dark horses, I like Chris Bassett a lot. He had a really good year in Oakland. He is in the middle of the rotation in New York, so he's not going to be facing the aces constantly as long as DeGrom and Scherzer are able to get out there. And then I'm going to almost take the similar route of Grant, but I'm going to go down to Sandy Alcantara. I think Alcantara is a stud. I think that whole rotation is full of studs and future Cy Young winners. And I think it's time for Alcantara to take that next big step if Miami wants to take the next big step as a franchise in terms of if the Giants are anywhere near what they were last year, the Miami Marlins played the Giants hard all weekend long. I still don't know why Don Mattingly bench Jazz Chisholm on Saturday, but that team needs to take the next step as a franchise and, kind of either pull the Texas Rangers and just buy a bunch of offense, or be like, we need to take the next step in pitching because we're going to be a Milwaukee Brewers and score 2 runs a game and only give up one or zero. I think the NL Cy Young is one of the most wide open races. There's so many good arms here. San Diego has a ton of arms, but I can't pick them. I like Sean Manaea a lot, but they played against Arizona, so it's hard for me to say Darvish or Manaea are Cy Young Award winners.
I think because if I had to pick a second dark horse, because obviously Rodon, after the one game, he looks great, but it's a long season, and Rodon really hasn't been able to stay healthy. So that's the biggest qualifier for Rodon is health. Whenever he's on, he's really good. If I had to pick another dark horse, I'm going with the guy in San Diego that I think should be the ace in that rotation once everything shakes out. If he can be healthy, I think Clevenger could be very compelling as a dark horse for Cy Young with that offense behind him, because I think he doesn't feel as much pressure as a guy like Darvish, Manaea, or even Blake Snell. He's honestly at this point the forgotten starter in the rotation, so he could take the league by storm this year. Because for as good as their team is on paper, I think Clevenger's the most forgotten about pitcher in all of baseball. It's not like he was a middling starter before he got traded to San Diego. He was the 2 for those guys out there. So I have high hopes for Clevenger out in San Diego this year.
All right. The National League Rookie of the Year. Grant, what do you got?
There's a lot of young talent in the National League, just like the American League. I'm going with CJ Abrams. I think the only thing that could hurt him is Bob Melvin platooning him, which he has to start. But once he gets consistent at bats, he has a lot of raw power and he's really fast. So he could put up a lot of steals. And if people are saying, well, what happens when Tatis comes back? But they're already talking about moving him to the outfield, and he said he's willing to play whatever position to stay in the big league. So I'm gonna stick with CJ Abrams, but I also could see another Padre winning it in Mackenzie Gore if he gets promoted. He had a really good start in AAA this past week. So I know that rotation has a lot of guys right now, but with Blake Snell hurt and Clevenger out for right now, if he gets a spot in the rotation and he does what he's expected to do, I think he could win it as well. So I'm going to go with one of the Padres guys.
I like it. Devin?
Well, if I had to pick one person that I think is going to win the award, dead or alive, gun to my head, Game 7 of the finals, I'm picking Seiya Suzuki as my lock to win the NL Rookie of the Year. It's been a weekend. Hell, it's been an entire offseason that I was infatuated with this man. He is the real deal. And while it may be unfair that he's been a professional baseball player for the better part of probably a decade, that he's now playing in the MLB, he's considered a rookie. He should win the award. I would be very surprised if he does not. He is supremely talented and a veteran hitter. He has plate discipline that you wouldn't see out of a guy until about year 5, unless he's Juan Soto. If I had to pick a dark horse, I'm going to go with my guy, Joey Bart, just because if the Giants are going to be as good as they were last year, we need production from the catcher spot. And I mean consistent production with the bat and the glove. I've heard a lot of good things coming out of spring training from guys like Rodon saying Bart calls really good games behind the plate. And while it's the first series, he's already knocked out a home run and he's played pretty well on offense. Any picks aside from my Giants in terms of dark horses for Rookie of the Year? I think the NL is more susceptible to have a pitcher win Rookie of the Year than the AL, historically speaking. So I think Hunter Green has a puncher's chance of winning this award. The Reds are not a great team, but they have enough bats to probably get him a good amount of wins. So the only thing with Hunter Green for me is it all depends on whenever Nick Lodolo finally is up and pitching consistently, because they're going to cannibalize a lot of the vote against each other. So, but if there's a pitcher that I would bet on to win the award this year, Hunter Green fits the profile, throws insanely fast fastballs, and he commands himself on the mound. So yeah, if I had to lock it in, Seiya, obviously, and then sleepers, give me Hunter Green and Joey Bart in any given order.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same spot of I feel like Seiya Suzuki is going to win it. And it's not going to be particularly close in terms of the voting. But if I were to throw that aside, I like Hunter Green a lot. Like what he saw against a really star-studded lineup in terms of Atlanta. Yeah. I am a pitcher type of guy. You know, you either like offense or you like pitching or you like both. I'm a pitcher guy. I love watching pitchers do their thing and absolutely annihilate lineups. Even if it's against mine, I'm just like, damn, it really do be like that sometimes. Dark horse, Sixto Sanchez. I watched that dude throw a couple starts. Lord, that Miami rotation is nasty, and Sixto Sanchez has some nasty stuff. But I'm just kind of in a spot where I feel like Seiya is going to run away with it, especially after watching the amount of plate discipline he has. If he is able to sustain that all year, his OBP is going to skyrocket, his OPS is going to skyrocket, and these days that's what the voters love. Even though they're all a bunch of old heads, they all like high OPS. Done, number one. Like it. That's just what I feel like it's going to be. If he's that disciplined already. Like, what are you going to do about it? Seth Beer hit a 3-run walk-off home run, so he's basically a lock.
He just doesn't play defense is his biggest problem. He's not that great at defense. My thing with the projections currently before the season's really underway, O'Neal Cruz is slated as the number 2 in terms of odds to win Rookie of the Year. While I disagree with the take of him being the second favorite to win the award. Like, intangibly, he is one of the most talented rookies out of this class this year, but I don't know if he's going to play enough for the Pirates this year. He's starting out the year in AAA, which is going to be good for him, but I wouldn't bet on an O'Neal Cruz Rookie of the Year caliber season. I think he's going to have probably higher highs than a lot of the guys on the list, but I don't know if we can expect that consistency off rip from a guy like O'Neal. His top end will be amazing, but the consistency for me, I don't see it panning out for a guy like him.
Yeah. I was gonna bring him up because he reminds me of Byron Buxton, not in because he's a shortstop, but he and O'Neal Cruz is huge, but in the fact that like his raw hitting ability is what Buxton was when he came up. So if he can figure out how to be more patient like Buxton has and take his pitches and just because he swings at everything like Javi Baez does right now. But when he makes contact, like I saw him hit a pitch that almost hit the dirt out because he just has that much strength. So if he can figure out how to control his patience at the plate, which I'm kind of glad he started out. I know a lot of people were upset, but I'm glad he started out in the minors. Figure that out, work on his patience, then I agree. Like, the sky's the limit for this guy, but I think he's going to start off pretty inconsistent.
Hitting pitches in the dirt. Vlad Guerrero Sr., is that you?
Perfect scenario for the Pirates, in my opinion. You've already re-signed Ke'Bryan Hayes to that. I think it's 7 years for $80 million. We're going to be one of the best contracts in baseball moving forward. Let O'Neal develop this year. Because if they get him to like fine tune the small stuff, if he comes out next year, he's my lock. Like if he has eligibility next year, the sky is the limit because he is a monster waiting to like just hit the scene. So yeah, O'Neal, we love you, just not in this race.
All right, the National League Manager of the Year, Devin.
It's not going to be Gabe Kapler. For him to win Manager of the Year, like I said about the Mariners, Gabe Kapler would have to win 117 games this season, which is batshit insane. So if I had to pick a Manager of the Year for the NL, a lot of the names aren't super inspiring to me. To be fair, I don't look a lot into the managers of the MLB. Looking through the National League, there is a select handful of managers that I think have a puncher's chance of winning the award. And no, Dave Roberts, you were not included. You've been here. You've done that. We get it. Your team is as Wall Street as it gets. The money's always there, and it's all what the dividends come in for him every single year. Bob Melvin has a shot. If they can win the division, Bob Melvin is in the running, guaranteed. Right now, Brian Snitker, he's the guy that for some reason I can't get my mind off of him in the NL. He took a team last year that I was surprised he didn't get. If Gabe Kapler doesn't win 107 games, I think Brian Snitker has a claim to the award last year with how tumultuous their season truly was and how he was able to lead that team through those trying times. So if the Braves can rattle off 90 plus wins this season, I think he has a real shot to win this award. But then again, Buck Showalter could rear his ugly head and say, hey, dude, the division's not yours. But I think one of these NL East managers has a really good shot to win it this year.
Right.
Yeah, I'm picking Buck Showalter just because the Mets have been the Mets for the past, 5 or 6 years. And if they actually do what they're expected, even win the division, winning the division, I think then he'd be a lock for the award. But if they make the playoffs, make some noise in the playoffs because the pressure's on them. They have the lineup. Their owner has gone out and bought everybody that he possibly could. And if they can, especially now that DeGrom's hurt for a little bit, if they can, weather the storm until he gets back and win that division or make the playoffs in that tight division with, the Phillies and the Braves and even, Marlins are better than people think, then I think it's his award to lose at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Buck Showalter, I feel like is in the same exact spot that Bob is took two tenured managers who have, shown they can do something in their time and have to turn teams around that severely underperformed. So that's why I'm going on the other side with Bob, is that Bob basically has to take this team and, finish under 500 for Christ's sake. He's going to be without his star player for 3 months. Who knows how long Blake Snell is going to be out. He got his, golden boy, Sean Manaea, which I think was a great move for San Diego, but it's the hype for me that San Diego built up all this hype after, we get why they lost in 2020. They basically walked in the division series on 2 crutches, and the Dodgers just kicked out the crutches from under them. It's basically what they did. They just bullied them. That's what they did. Clevenger, it's basically bullpen games for Jace Tingler, and then Jace Tingler can't even win 81 games. So now Bob Melvin has to walk in and take these guys who are supposed to be winning the division, supposed to be winning 90-something games. I know that doesn't win the division last year, but supposed to be at least in the playoffs. He's done it before with extremely, extremely less. To set a bar very, very low, he has more than he did in Oakland. But that's why it's Bob for me. I've just seen him do it before. You can say all you want. This is not to you guys. This is to your naysayers. You can say all you want about the lack of playoff success that Bob Melvin have, but you go against Justin Verlander multiple times in a division series. Let's see you do it. I watched Justin Verlander carve that team to pieces multiple years in a row. That was unfair. Just wasn't nice.
To kind of jump off the Bob Melvin pick, I do like him in terms of the manager of the year, because while Oakland is a poverty franchise, as some would say, no pun intended, Bob Melvin was the manager out in Oakland for 11 years. Out of those 11 years, 4 of them, they had a losing record. Beyond that, they were above a 500 team. And Jace Tingler took a team that should have realistically been an 80 plus 90 something win team last year and he just dropped the ball. So if anyone is going to maximize the win totals for a team like this, if it's not Melvin, I don't know who they're going to be able to bring in terms of the personalities they have and the talent they have currently on the roster. If it doesn't work now, I don't know how it works moving forward. So Melvin probably has the clearest cut path out of anybody because Snitker and Showalter are going to eat each other alive, along with Joe Girardi and whatever he's doing in Philadelphia. I think he's just playing MLB The Show 05 with Ryan Howard, and he's like, just throw all the bats out there. Aaron, is your arm okay? But yeah, Melvin's a really good pick, Austin. I can agree to that. But yeah.
Can I also pick Brett Phillips for AL Cy Young Award as he has gotten 2 outs on 2 pitches against the A's? Never mind, they just bobbled the ball. So I'm picking Brett Phillips for the AL Cy Young as he lobs in 50-mile-an-hour ephuses.
Can I pick Wander Franco for my AL Cy Young pick? I just like him. I think he has a potential.
Franco was in the running last year, right? He's not eligible
for Rookie of the Year. No, yeah, he's not eligible for Rookie of the Year. I don't think.
Played just too many
He was
games,
a finalist. He was a finalist last year, so I don't think he could be eligible this year.
Yeah, him, Randy, and somebody else not named Adolis Garcia. I get it. He struck out a lot, okay?
I was going to open with saying I think Adolis Garcia is my pick for Rookie of the Year, just to like mess with Austin. But I was like, nah, I got to be nice.
Have you guys seen people be like, it has to be Randy this year, right? Randy repeats.
Yeah, he was.
It's all service time. Oh, man. Okay, the most prestigious award of them all, the piece of metal that is the World Series trophy.
Oh, man.
If you had to sit here right here and now through 3 to 4 games, who are your world champions of baseball? You don't have to tell me over who and how many games. Just tell me who is holding the trophy at the end of October or start of November, however the schedule works this year. Grant, who's your World Series champions?
Sorry, Devin, but I'm going with the Dodgers. I think I really don't know who they're going to face. The AL is loaded. I mean, it could be any of the 3 or 4 teams from the East. I could see the White Sox making the World Series. I could see the Astros making it again. So I struggle to say over who, but I'll say Dodgers Blue Jays just to be exciting. I mean, I think it's going to take a lot for the Blue Jays to make it in as like their first year really contending, but their offense is really good. So I'll say Dodgers Blue Jays, Dodgers winning it all.
Go ahead, Austin, go ahead. I need to marinate a little bit.
The Texas Rangers. No, I'm kidding. It's not close. It's easy. Nathaniel Lowe, Corey Seager. Okay.
He broke the bat in 2 spots.
He broke the bat like he's going to break everybody else. Let me tell you something about Corey Seager. It's the Blue Jays for me. I feel like they have, despite what I saw this weekend, and I watched every single pitch just about. I watched Barrio struggle. I watched Ryu struggle. I watched Gosman have an okay start. Manoah just finished 6 shutout innings against the Yankees. And then they have Yusei Kikuchi going tomorrow. The biggest problem for this team will be holding leads late. And that's why they lost on Sunday, because we got to Ryu and we just annihilated the bullpen. So when we get towards the deadline, if they can make 1 or 2 moves for bullpen arms, I can't think of any names off the top of my head right now. Probably guys out of Oakland, I'm sure. But if they can get Jordan Romano, Ray Romano, Jordan Romano, that's his name, right?
Yep.
That's the closer. Okay. I kept wanting to say Romero. Has really good stuff. A solid closer that I think they can trust in terms of, probably blowing 5 to 6 saves, which is pretty typical these days, it seems like. The problem for them is going to be getting there. They have guys with good stuff, but it just didn't pan out over this weekend, and it could pan out throughout the season. But if they can get a solid 7th and or at least an 8th inning guy and maybe a 7th and 8th inning guy, I think they're set. They don't you can make the argument that they don't have the best left-handed power in the world, but I just don't think it matters. I think Springer, Guerrero, Bichette, all these guys can hit both sides of pitching. Maybe they made a move for a left-handed power bat, but I just don't see it. I don't know even who's on the market in terms of left-handed power. I just don't think they need it. It wouldn't surprise me if they did make that move to shove someone at DH, but I think the Blue Jays are about 2 or 3 moves away from beating everyone else in the AL. And over, I know I said we didn't have to say over, but if it's over anybody, it's probably over the Braves. I feel like the Dodgers are going to get knocked out of the CS again. Dave Roberts will find a way to put Clayton Kershaw in the 8th inning, and it's going to go awry.
To piggyback off of Austin's statements, and Grant, I get it. The Dodgers are as big time as it gets. This is the best baseball team ever assembled, according to essentially, this is the best lineup ever assembled, according to WRC Plus. It's comparable to like the 1930s Yankees. That's how good this lineup on paper truly is. My pick, personally, I'm going with the Houston Astros. As unpopular as that opinion may be, this offseason has been filled with a lot of teams making big splashes and big moves to add talent to their rosters in ways through free agency, trades, managerial hires. One thing that I think is extremely important in the sport of baseball is consistency and familiarity. People seem to forget about Houston. For as great as Los Angeles and the Blue Jays are going to be this season, their divisions are going to be bar fights. They are going to have to play insanely good amounts of baseball and make minimal mistakes to get out of their divisions, especially Toronto, in terms of winning the divisions. I think their star players will have more miles on their bodies. They will have exerted more effort to get to where they are going. Houston not only is returning an arm in Justin Verlander that has been one of the best pitchers we've seen over the last 10 to 15 years. Lance McCullers Jr. is no slouch, and their number 3 and 4 starters could be dark horse Cy Young candidates if everything plays out. The bullpen, while it's not the same as in 2017, correct? That was the World Series the Astros won.
Yeah,
their
17.
bullpen is far different this year than it was at their peaks in their World Series appearances, but it is not far worse. Ryan Presley is one of the best closers baseball has to offer, and for a team that just lost the best shortstop in baseball, quote unquote, in Carlos Correa, they've got a guy that they believe in Jeremy Pena to fill that hole. While I don't expect Pena to be the guy to supplant the numbers, they are prepared to go through this season and hopefully have a lot of that be replaced in part by the team. Martin Maldonado is one of the more consistent defensive catchers. With the bat, he's not going to give you much. Yuli Gurriel has beat Father Time for the last 5 years. And as much as I hate to say it, Jose Altuve is probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer if everything pans out. Alex Bregman has played worse the last couple of years. Is he due for a bounce back? For this prediction, he better be. Kyle Tucker is a great right fielder, and Yordan Alvarez bring the height of this team to new levels. I just think in a sport where consistency is paramount and a lot of players can deal with a lot of things due to the 162 game slog that's ahead of them, I think Houston's road to a championship is going to be easier. And I'm kind of pulling for Dusty Baker at this point. He really kind of screwed the pooch in 2002 with the Giants. But if I had to pick a team today, hell or high water to win a World Series this year, I don't know if there's a more compelling team to me than Houston. LA is the best team in baseball, and the Dodgers. And Toronto is going to be the most fun team to watch. But I don't trust Dave Roberts, and Toronto has not been there before. So for me, in my heart of hearts, if anybody besides Houston comes out of the AL, I won't be surprised. But they just feel like as good of a lock as you're going to get out in the American League.
I would definitely like to see Dusty Baker win a World Series. I rooted for Houston a little bit last year, just for Dusty. Literally, that's it. I don't know. I think I was just making myself feel better about Houston being in the World Series and the Rangers not.
In my notes, I wrote down justice for Dusty. Like, yeah, I've given him a lot of crap over the years for what happened in 2002, but you know what? Give the man his ring. He's a baseball lifer. But yeah, if Verlander comes back to form, the ceiling of this Houston team is going to be really high because they'll have 1 through 4 that's comparable to most teams, and their bullpen is that good. All they'll have to answer to is the Correa thing, and I think they're prepared to do that. But then again, Mookie Betts turns into 2018 Mookie Betts, and essentially the atomic bomb hits the MLB, and the Dodgers win 112 games. And it's like, wow, my pick was terrible.
Shout out to Grant, too, for putting out a fire tweet of Brett Phillips having more innings pitched than Jacob deGrom.
Lock it in, Cy Young, baby.
Fun fact of the day.
Oh, man. Whew. Okay, I think that's going to do it for us. We went over way out what I expected, but we went off the rails a little bit. But it wouldn't be the Makeshift Managers podcast if we didn't go off the rails. It is what it is, what it is. As always, for the last 6 out of the last 7 weeks, Grant has been here with us talking baseball. It's been a lot of fun. We definitely would love to have you on again soon when we talk more baseball. Me and Devin have a lot of NFL to catch up with. So there's
the fact that I'm still alive after the Chargers off season is just like my cardiovascular health is in just pristine condition after that stuff. It's a lot.
But thank you very much for hanging out with us the past 2 months. Basically, it's been a blast.
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on and taking the time. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, if you ever need someone else to talk baseball with, I'm your guy. So thanks again, guys. It's been a blast.
Hey, with that Brad Osmus, you'll be perfect for that manager episode for sure. I can complain about Jeff Bannister. You can complain about Brad Osmus, and Denman will just be like, I had Bruce Bochy. So
Dusty Baker ruined Barry Bonds' Hall of Fame case. Benji Molina, I still haven't forgiven you.
Hey, Benji Molina, only catcher in MLB history to hit for the cycle as a Texas Ranger. Let me tell you something, brother. Oh man. So I think that's it for us, right? We've covered as much baseball as we can without baseball letting it do its thing. God, this umpire's so bad.
If we covered any more baseball, Austin, if we covered any more baseball in the last 2 months, you'd have to call one of us Byron Buxton. Grant, as always, we appreciate you for being on over the last 7 weeks. Be sure to follow him at Databasehit on Twitter. If you guys aren't following him already, what are you doing? But from us to all of you guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and the one word of the day.
Real quick, Devin, before you send us off, super serious moment for everybody here. Not baseball related, kind of NFL related, but kind of just momentarily related. Unfortunately, Dwayne Haskins lost his life over the weekend due to an incident. We won't get into the details. It's not our business to speculate what happened. The fact that as a young man lost his life, younger than me, believe almost as young as Devin and Grant. I'll be straight up, I don't remember how old you are, so he might be younger than you, but he's definitely younger than me. He 23 going on 24. Dwayne Haskins lost his life in an extremely tragic event. I just want to take this time to say the time that we spend on this earth is very precious. Whether you like sports or not, whether you've hung out with us over the past 2 years or not, whether you follow us, follow Grant, it doesn't matter. Spend time with the ones you love. Call your mom, call your dad, tell them you love them. Tell your brothers, your sisters, all your family members, your significant other, because not every day is guaranteed. We're lucky to wake up and open our eyes every single morning, because one day we don't have that anymore. And unfortunately, tragic events like that really make us think. And it's only when tragic events like that happen that put us in these spots of realizing how precious life is. Somebody who had his life ahead of him, regardless of his football skills or where he was as a person. He was younger than us, and he had his whole life ahead of him. It's tragic, but I want to just take this time to say that just call somebody. After you turn off the podcast, call somebody, tell them you love them. And I don't mean to end this so sorrowfully, but I just had to get that out. It meant a lot to me to get that out, because it's terrible things like this that it's tough until it happens to us, until we lose somebody kind of like that. And it sucks for everybody involved in that situation. So with that, Devin, if you have anything to say about that, and you can send us off, Grant, if you have anything to say about that as well, feel free.
Firstly, thoughts and prayers to the family and friends of Dwayne Haskins. Regardless of how you felt about him as a player, he was a genuinely great human being from all accounts that I've heard and witnessed across the internet and even in testimonials of individuals. One thing about what we do is, while we are not paid millions of dollars or even paid at all to talk about athletes, one thing that people take for granted is the privilege that we have to speak upon these people. It'd be one thing for me to go to a movie theater and start talking shit about someone pouring popcorn, because that would be utterly ridiculous. So an important thing to take from this is understanding that athletes are human beings and they are people at their purest form. And so while it's fine and dandy and great to comment upon people's production in their field of work, it's even more so important to acknowledge their humanity in their most trying of times and in the most tragic of times. So to everybody listening, I echo the statements of Austin in saying, cherish the ones that you have while you have them, because tomorrow is never guaranteed. And to everyone that occupies this fandom of sport, be more appreciative of the individuals and not so much the teams that we follow, because logos, they'll come, and logos are forever. Logos will be here long after I am dead and Austin is gone. But the people we get to watch on a daily basis deserve to be appreciated more than just players on a field, but as human beings that occupy the world that we also live in.
Yeah, you guys worded it really well, and it's just when a famous person, athlete, actress, whatever, passes away, at an older age, it's a little bit, it's obviously still sad, but it's more understanding, because you're at the end of your time. But when someone like this, who's younger than I am and younger than you guys, and passes away, it's really eye-opening to realize that you can be going about your life and something crazy like that could happen to you or someone that you love. So just cherish the time that you have with the people that you do have, and do not take it for granted. Like Devin said, we are privileged to be able to just have our own opinions about these athletes, but at the end of the day, they are human beings and they deserve to be treated as you want to be treated by other people. So I just, thoughts and prayers out to the family and the community that surrounded him, the team that he was playing for, the college and high school teams that he played for, because I can't imagine what anyone that knew him is going through. It's really sad when something tragic and sudden happens like this, and it's an eye-opening experience for all of us, and one that we need to use and carry forward with the way that we handle relationships in the future with people that we have. So thank you for speaking on this, Austin. I think it's a very important topic.
So with that, once again, sorry to end it on such a sorrowful note for everyone, but I'll let Devin, and we'll still end the way that we always do.
Yeah, and before I get the one word out, just everybody, regardless of whether you're listening to it live, hearing it later on in the future, it's important for all of us to remember that regardless of the achievements that we carry and the money that we make and the titles that we hold, the most important aspects of our life are the relationships that we create and cultivate throughout our lives, and the impacts that we have on each other as individuals. So thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts for listening to the episode. Stay safe, stay healthy, and peace.